This is the Architectural Review Committee of the City of Castle Hills, and it is now approximately 7:05 p.m., and I would like to call us to order. And it appears that we do have a quorum, so we can proceed and we can vote. Alrighty, our first item after that is to consider approval of the minutes from October 3rd, 2018. And we might note that Mr. Rapley has made a few corrections to the minutes, but
I move approval with the amendments that have been made.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Minutes approved unanimously. Thank you, Jeanette. Okay. So our real business here this evening is item 3 on the agenda. Consider and act upon an application submitted by Mar Group LLC, owner of the property located at 2101 Northwest Military Highway, legal description CB 5778B, Block 9, Lot 70, Castle Hills Edition, for the proposed addition of an indoor children's play area and snack bar styled as Snack Bites, and the review of the aesthetics of the building, change of use from the previous IBC drive-through banking facility and the creation of new parking spaces, as well as a drive-through pickup window. What we normally do, folks, we see that's very happy to see we have some folks ready to speak, but what we'd like to do first is to kind of give the applicant the opportunity to present their project so that we all kind of have the latest information as we step in front to speak. So if I might invite the applicant to come forward and make a little presentation.
Thank you.
And we might note that Mr. Middleman is a member of our board and has recused himself for the obvious reasons this evening.
Is the mic on? Yes. I'd be happy to vote if I could.
No, you can't.
I'd like to go to the latest slides, if I could, that I just sent a few days ago. Let me see, do I need to? Oh, I can't. Can you do the slides, Ryan, that had the bronze? Is that it? That looks like it might be it. Okay, well, I'll explain things as they come up. How about that? Is that okay?
It's fine.
Okay. I think everybody is aware of the fact that this was formerly the IBC Bank drive-through facility. It's been vacant, I don't know, do you know? Maybe a year or less, probably. And so our clients have, and I'm Barry Middleman, the architect, our clients have purchased the property, and they had a very creative use consideration. They wanted to salvage as much of the existing building and drive-through area that they could. So what we're doing, is there a chance that you can go to the floor plan? Just keep going till we get to the floor plan, near the end. Okay, well, that's all right then. All right, what we're doing is we're taking the roof that was over the drive-through lanes previously. We are going to salvage the roof, and we're going to build basically a glass box around what was the drive-through areas, and that glassed-in area would be a play area for children. It's not going to be a jungle gym type where they'd be climbing up high. It'll be probably painting and drawing and video machines and things of that nature for the children. And the old building that was there previously will become partially offices, partially mechanical. It has the public restrooms. It has a seating area or a dining area where the parents will sit in that area on tables and chairs and be able to partake of snacks from a bar counter in the kitchen area, which is within that same area that the covering over the drive-throughs were. I'm sorry about these slides. The original slides had the site plan and the floor plan in it, and we also have the pictures, as you saw, of the existing building.
They wouldn't be in the presentation you gave us?
It is. It's on the last page is the site plan and the floor plan. So basically, you can see that from this view, where the glass line is where the edge of and that is the existing canopy. So we're salvaging as much as we can of the drive-through area as well as the building area, and they'll level up the floor slab in the play area, and they'll have that entrance where the canopy is right there into the building. If they choose, we haven't done the construction drawings, but if it's nice weather and they choose to open what may be garage door, glass glazing and garage doors, we'll put a barrier, a balusters or a railing out there so the children won't be able to go beyond that point if they ever do open it on a nice day. And so you might go around the building with these slides, if you will. I wanted to mention that tree there. The reason we're not making a real big issue about the trees is because we're leaving all the trees pretty much existing throughout the whole site because we're using basically the same pervious cover as we are the building portion. That tree, from my seeing, it looks like it's dead. Looks like when I've seen it, it looks like that tree may not even be salvageable. In the site plan, you see the tree can stay if it needs to, but it just would allow us additional parking if we were able to remove it if the tree isn't hardy enough, because the rest of the trees, all the rest of the trees on the site are being salvaged and preserved. I don't know if that palm tree, is there a palm tree out front? I don't know if that palm tree. Yeah, okay. There's the site plan. There it is right there.
So how many exits and entrances you got, brother?
Pardon me?
You've got 1, 2, 3
What are you looking, the exits?
entrances and exits?
Okay, I'll show you. That's an exit over there.
To go back towards Military Drive.
Well, that goes to the side of the building.
I think he
There's
means
an exit here.
for vehicles.
I'm talking for
Oh,
vehicles.
for
vehicles.
vehicles? This is a entrance and exit for the parking in the front. And this is a parking area that will be probably used mostly by the employees, but they also will have the benefit of a few more additional parking spaces there. There's exits. So that is exactly like it sits today, with the parking and the dumpster area where cars will be able to come in and out of this area, basically the employees. And then there was right here, right there, if you look at the existing plans, and I have those in your package also, that's where the ATM machine was. So cars would go through the drive-through, which is right up in here, but they'd also come here around to go to the ATM to come out. And there was a sign there that I think said right turn only or something to that nature at that spot. But the drive-through was to accommodate people that will be wanting to pick up a lot of these snack items without having to park and come inside the building. And so that'll be a separate functional use there. The kitchen is right here, and we're putting the kitchen outside the existing building because when we level the slab, we'll be able to get the plumbing in underneath for the kitchen area. Right there, it's so hard to see, it's not really large enough, but there's a counter there for people that will be sitting, the parents will be sitting out here, they can intermingle with the children in the play area, and there's a counter here for the parents to come in and get snacks and drinks, and so this is a kind of a central location.
Could I interrupt you to ask,
Yes.
Barry, please, what's on the menu? Is it,
Well, you know what, they asked me if it was relevant to me bring that up tonight, and I said probably not, but if they have one with them. Pardon? You didn't bring the menu, did you bring the menu?
no, it doesn't have to be specifically, but I mean,
Well,
snacks, is it crackers and cheese, or is it burgers and soups, or?
No, it's not a kitchen with a hood, and they're not grilling, they don't need a grease trap.
Okay.
It's strictly warming and cooling. It'd be a microwave for warming, and it'll have a refrigerator that they'll be able to get the.
So it's more
So it's all
sandwiches?
snacks. It's not really, I don't think, meals as much as it's snack items.
Okay.
And I don't know whether y'all would want to,
Yes, ma'am, please.
you going to come up, Roxanne?
Most of them are going to be healthy snacks or Mexican snacks, ice cream, nachos, pizza, so things that kids will enjoy, and also the big ones.
Okay.
We do have a menu, but not right now to put on the screen. We
No, no, that's fine. I'm just trying to get a sense of what it is you're
Okay.
serving and how long folks are going to be there with respect to queues and things like that.
I think that it's a play area for their children, and I've talked to people that I know in Castle Hills, and they're kind of excited that there's a family-oriented facility here in Castle Hills where they can bring their children and they can enjoy watching them play. They can walk through it, be very educational process. Let the kids beat them at video games, things of that nature. And so it's really light snacks, but apparently it's such a popular novelty type snacks that's why they felt like the drive-through would be a success as well. Do y'all have any other questions? I think I've kind of taken you around the building.
I do. So the wall structure stays the same on the back wall, right?
The building stays the same in
But
the
as
back.
reference to the difference between the edge of your property to the adjacent neighbor, there's a wall there today.
We haven't touched anything in the back of the building.
It stays the same, correct?
And those are accessible exits from,
Is there going to be any music involved in this
not
play area?
outside, not
Not outside.
outside. I don't know whether they plan to have any kind of music inside. I don't believe they are going to have anything of that nature, but whatever sound there'll be, it'll be contained, other than, just ordering.
In
them
reference to the
drive-through
game
window.
room, what do you anticipate the average age for who will be attending the game room? Is it going to be targeted to kids 10 and under? Are you talking teenagers, adults? What do you anticipate with the game room?
So the idea is to, like, for the teenagers or so, have video games, like different areas with TVs, with Xbox or so, and then another station, like for a Crayola station, for the little ones, and then maybe ping pong or so for the teenagers or so, yeah.
What are the hours of the, and I
Operation?
apologize if it sounds too loud, but what do you anticipate the hours for the drive-through to be open?
So it's going to be open from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And about the music, it's not going to be like, so the concept, it's not like a night thing. It's mostly for kids. There will be beer and wine, as Barry mentioned before, for the parents, but it's not oriented like for a party thing. It's most like family.
And the reason I ask is because, as you mentioned, it's the same area as ATMs, except ATMs are quiet. You don't have some voice coming out, what's your order and what's going on, so that's going to create some sort of noise, that you're not used to having in the neighborhood. as they take their orders and go through a drive-through. Drive-throughs are notoriously loud because people don't listen. And so I was just wondering, just as long as we know, I mean, they're stopping at 10.
Yeah, there'll be a menu board, and then they'll come right up to the window. So, I mean, they'll just do their transaction at the window, but there'll be a menu board, I'm sure, with the.
Oh,
display.
it's not like a regular one with sound? Is that what you're telling me? Or,
No, I think there'll be sound. Would they order from the menu board?
Yeah.
Or would they order when they get there?
The plan is to get a menu board, but
okay, so let's make sure what we're talking about, because, I mean, you see some menu boards that are just basically menu boards, and then you go up to the actual window, and then you order right there. But then you have those that have a speaker, and they're like, okay, what is your order? And then they go through. So which one is it?
so do you want us like to get like?
No, it's
order
just
or
it's
my
just-
question is, do you think like the menu, how do you,
How about, I think what Roxanne is trying to say is maybe the menu board would just be to be able to visualize the menu, and then they can come, since it's all pre-prepared, basically, they could come up to the window and order there and do the transaction without a microphone.
Okay, I mean, I was basically just wanting to ask, I
Well,
feel-
we hadn't
Okay, so it's
discussed that
open.
ourselves.
we haven't discussed it, but
Well, it's definitely, and for me, I think that's important that, you reduce what is there as the sound, right? And those things are notoriously loud, and it's like, if I'm a neighbor, having to hear that order every day for all
But-
day long would be somewhat of a pain, but, okay, that's cool. So then we can accommodate
Because we're moving the drive-through a little bit
towards the street?
farther, yeah. So do you think that sound would bother neighbors, even if it's
Well, I'm
far?
just saying that if it's regulated, it doesn't have to be of an issue, right? You
Sound-
can-
The menu board will be way out here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And so the only neighbor that would hear it at all would be the Smiley's building, Caleb Smiley
Yeah.
building, because I think their property goes to the end
well,
of
but that's gonna be during the workday, but then you're talking 7 days a week, aren't we?
Well,
Yes.
maybe so, but
Yeah,
I'm
so over the
I'm
weekends.
not sure that the sound will be heard from here beyond the property.
I've just heard them really, really loud, Barry, so I just
Well,
wanted to make
maybe
sure.
there's a way to
And
control
for
the
me,
volume.
I'm just asking what it was gonna be like, so if you make the recommendation, that's fine with me. Those are the questions I have at this point.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions for the applicant? We're going to, if not, we'll move, go ahead, Dave, please.
I don't have anything at this time.
Thank you. Matt?
So just to be clear, the building footprint isn't any larger than it is right now?
The building is the same, and we're encompassing the existing canopy over the drive-through windows.
Okay.
And those have skylights in them over the play area. Have
You mentioned you were
existing
adding on foundation, but that's still underneath the canopy,
Pardon me?
right?
Yes, we're gonna have to level the foundation there, because it slopes down. You can kind of see a picture of it there.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I don't, maybe we do some research on if you can control the volume on a menu board, because I would think that you're gonna be right there next to the menu board. I don't know why it would have to be loud.
Yeah, some of them are, though,
Well, I don't know if there's a control volume on those or not.
Yeah.
If it's a problem, we'll just use it as a display of the menu items. and
Well,
then
one
they
would
can
think in
order
this
when they
age
get
of
there.
high technology, we could control the volume on a menu board.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much the use of the building. That tree out front, you'd have to take a look at it. You could see it's not in a driveway so much as it is taking up a extra parking space, and all the other trees we're salvaging.
So if you're proposing that tree that's sort of raised up within the,
Our preference would be to take it out,
yeah,
because we're gonna have to regrade the site anyway, to bring it up to the new level floor in the play area.
because it appears, I mean, it looked very nice this morning. I was up there this
Where the
morning. It
leaf-
appears to be blooming.
It is blooming?
Yeah.
Well, I
but,
mean, we can.
But
we
it
can
looked
keep
like it was in your drive.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I have another drawing in there, the existing drawings.
Well, anyway,
I'll look at that.
we can, we don't need to figure this out at the moment. I'm anxious to get on to the public hearing so the folks have their say. Is there anything else that y'all would like
Just one
to?
last question. The group, the MAR LLC, is this the first operation you'll ever have, or do you have other facilities anywhere else?
This will be the first one.
The first one, so it's the first time that y'all are going to try this as a small business?
My partner had before experience with snacks and so, but this kind of big concept is with playground and all, would be the first one.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you all. Okay, let us then get to the public hearing portion of our meeting this evening. And so let me declare the public hearing open. It is approximately 7:25. And if I may invite, the first name on our list here is Andy Ronan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I live at 102 North Manton, directly across the street from this project. And there's a couple things I wanted to point out and correct about what we were just told on the ATMs. Where they're proposing the, I can go back with this? The one that was just up, is there any way we could go back to that one? So where the drive-through is proposed, that is actually not where the ATM was. That was a drop box. The ATM, a night deposit, which did not have very much action. And that driveway that you see right there is where you would exit after the night deposit. And
Is that your residence across the street?
no, that is not mine out there. Let me get this laser going here and I'll show you. Thank you. Is there any way we could go back to the presentation he just showed us? This one? No, his original one? Yeah. Thank you. Yes, please. So right here is where the ATM was, and when the bank left, they took it out. Customers would come in, do their transaction, leave on Northwest Military. You can see that that drive is kind of facing this way, so it pushes them this way, not to our residential side of things. And then over here was where the drop box was. So you have the tellers under here where they're going to do the playland and the seating area in the kitchen. When people came in to do their transaction, they would come through here, again, shooting out towards Northwest Military. See how that drive is facing that direction? So now, the drive-through traffic is going to come through, and they can go this way, they can go that way. I may be backing out of my driveway, trying to, get on to Northwest Military while somebody's coming out. I just don't think it's a very good idea to have them coming out right here. I would like to see if we could get this closed, have people come in off Northwest Military, come around this way. There's plenty of room right here. They have 18 feet to work with. Have the drive-through on this side, forcing people to go out Northwest Military, not having them come out this direction and, into our residential neighborhood. Something else I noticed is that this setback here is 25 feet. This line right here. They're taking orders right here, which is on this side of the setback. Not sure if that's allowed or not, but something I noticed. The tree is healthy. It's a red oak tree. I can get an arborist over there tomorrow to look at it, tell you all about it. I'm in the tree business. I can get a non-biased opinion on it. It's a completely healthy, beautiful tree that blocks sound from Northwest Military. Would be great to leave because it would give shade to the people that are parking. I would hate to see that one go. There's another one back here that is a beautiful red oak that does not need to go. It's also very healthy. That's pretty much it. I think that it would also be nice to have some sort of wall built along here to separate commercial from our residential street. Caliph, commercial building stops right here. My property starts right here, takes up this whole line. Every bit of my front property is touching, facing this bank. So I would have to put up with listening to people take orders till 10 o'clock at night, which I think is ridiculous. And then also coming out facing my driveway. So I'll go back. Can I switch over from that? Thank you. So right now, the proposed drive-through is going to put people out facing here. This is my driveway. My mailbox is right here. They can go either direction. I'll be backing out while somebody's coming out right here. I'm sure that'll happen more times than not, and I'll have to be careful about traffic shooting out of there now. If we can get them to close this, come around the back, I'm sure it's going to cost more money for them to do this, but I think if they work with us, it would be great. And if not, we can get a wall built along here to try to keep the noise down and have somewhat of a residential feel to our neighborhood. And this is also showing, this is my driveway, my house is over here, and it goes all the way down over here. You can't see that. And these are my neighbors here. They're also going to have to put up with looking at this drive-through and dealing with people backing out while they're backing out of their driveways as well. This is a wall that is over where the bike shop is on Northwest Military that was built to block their parking in the back. I'm just using this as an example. I think this would be good if we could get something like that. And this is the view from my mailbox and my driveway to the left. This tree is healthy. It's coming out. Also, the tree in the front where the parking is also very healthy. They're red oaks, so they drop their leaves. They look like they're kind of shaggy right now because they're coming out, but they'll be out in no time. I guess that's all the way that way. Okay, this side here, I think if they would have to do some work to get the drive-through to work here without taking this tree out, but they have 18 feet of clearance from the property line to here. They may need to get some of this building taken off shaven to get a drive-through on this side, but I think it is doable and it would benefit the residents greatly. So when the customers at the bank came out through the tellers, this is where they would come out, and it says right turn only. There used to be a sign here that said right turn only. It's not there anymore. I don't know why, but this would shoot them back out to Northwest Military, not down Manton. There's plenty of room for entering and exiting at the same time because everybody knows it's hard to get on to Northwest Military. So if there's somebody exiting, it's not going to block anybody from coming in, spending money. They've got enough entrance in the front. So if they use this drive, it's 60 feet further into our residential neighborhood than this other drive up here, which was used for the teller before when the bank was open. And I think this is a good area for a drive-through on that side. This would be the north side of the building, not the Manton side. Let's see. The speaker box, I was going to ask about that, if it was going to be something where somebody pulled up and looked at it and went up and ordered. You know, at 10 o'clock at night, I've got good ears, and I'm out in my yard all the time working on things. I would hate to have to hear that thing go off all the time. This is the tree that is in the back of the property. It is 30 inches in diameter. It's a heritage red oak. I wasn't sure if that was in the plan to take out, so I took a picture of it. They have 18 feet to work with no setbacks to the adjacent commercial property. I think it's a trophy shop or something of that nature. Oh, let's go back to that one. This tree is perfectly healthy. Even with the leaves not completely out yet, you can see how much shade it would provide for their patrons parking. And it is also 29 or 30 inches in diameter. That's it. Yep.
Thanks very much. Okay, next is Don Rochelle.
I'm Don Rochelle, live at 112 North Manton, and I've served on several committees for the council. And one of them was streets and drainage. And Manton is a major problem that's never been resolved. But I do have to compliment these. My kids were one of the first customers at Munchies when they were in the Caleb building. And I think your concept is no problem. It's the drive-through that we're having an issue with. Because we already have way too much commercial traffic on a cut-through on our street. The city has not decided to do anything about it. Our street's in bad shape. Our city doesn't have a lot of money to spend on streets, so now we're going to create more traffic if we allow the drive-through to go according to that plan, because those people will turn left and right. And then there's a trash issue, because we know that. If they're going to be serving up to the teenage level, we already know what that's like. We've already got people running up and down the streets. So our street has changed over the last 20 years. I've been there 20 years, so I've got a lot of history. We've got, I don't know how many kids now, everybody. We've got quite a few new kids that like to go up and down the street. Well, what was Castle Hills all about? Why do we have all these fights about improving and bringing in new businesses into Castle Hills? Because we want to maintain this integrity of a walkable neighborhood. That will stop our walkable street and will expose our kids to that. Now we also have a major drainage issue on part of Manton. Now you're going to subject these customers to that issue. That has not been resolved. We did get some allocation of monies to do something down there. Nothing was done, so when the rains come, we have that issue. Manton is a mess. It's a residential street that's being used as a commercial, and this drive-through is going to create more hassles and more exposure and more danger to the residents. Okay? Didn't even think about the speaker, but obviously that's going to be an issue because they never really were. Now, Las Palapas. We all know where Las Palapas is. Their drive-through goes in, goes around to the back of the building, and comes out the other side. So conceptually, it seems like the drive-through could at least go and circle the building and go out onto your major artery and won't create that excessive traffic flow. Other than that, I think the project is interesting. It's just that we can't have more traffic and then the city's going to incur extra costs to be able to maintain it if they allowed it, and they don't have that money, and they've elected not to touch Manton for probably 20 years. We've filled potholes, but we have no curbs. So now you're going to have potentially people driving off with snacks, especially teenagers, parking on the side of the road, dumping trash, unless they're directed out to a main artery. So I think they really need to look at this plan, readjust it, and do something with that drive-through. But the concept is fine. It's just that that drive-through needs to have a redirection. And when you think about the speaker, what Andy had said about maybe putting a wall up, that at least through a portion of that to be able to mitigate the noise and from the rest of the residential would be, I think, a very good idea. But look, I've sat through so many committees that never went anywhere, and we've had so many fights about protecting the residences. And that drive-through right now is not addressing that. This is completely against what council's always been about and the city's been about. And so I think you, as a committee, need to have that recommendation that this has to be reworked And none of that traffic has got to go down Manton, because it was not and has never been a commercial street, and that's what you're going to turn it into. So that's my take on it, and I hope that you guys see the logic in what we're talking about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rafael Varaza.
Hello, I live on 104 North Manton Lane. Andy showed the picture of his house. My house is right across from that drive-through. And I'm one of those families with little kids, and I'm actually excited. The concept's really cool. Castle Hills, the idea is to be in a community where you can walk everywhere and hopefully have safe bike lanes. And we've been working with the city for a while. Nothing has happened. But one of my biggest concerns is safety. I have, like I said, a 1-year-old baby. North Manton Lane is always the cut-through from people from Northwest Military to Lock Hill Selma. And my biggest worry is the same thing, the worry that my other neighbors had, is that outflow from the drive-through onto Northwest Military. And how is the city going to be able to take responsibility for really public safety and controlling that flow of more traffic, more cars. And my neighbors, my kids, they like to play in our front yards. What I'm considering now, if this goes on, is like putting a big fence in front of my house, and my daughter can just go out on the street, because I know it's going to increase traffic through it. So that's my biggest concern. I do like the concept a lot. I think it's really cool. But just public safety is an issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Carter.
Hi, I'm Christina Carter, and I live at 111 North Manton Lane. And I have two concerns, basically. The first one is, I don't know what the occupancy is going to be, the maximum occupancy in this building, and versus how many parking spaces we're going to have, you know, in the event they reach maximum occupancy. I don't know if it's going to be tailored to birthday parties to where you'll have big groups at one time, you know, a birthday party for a child to where you'll have several people. Parking is a problem on Manton. I'm the second house behind the bank, and anytime anybody has any sort of little event or big event, all the sides of the houses, people are parked because there's just no parking. So if they don't have sufficient parking spaces to accommodate the maximum occupancy, that parking is going to go flow through onto Manton and the residences, is what my concern is. So I haven't heard anything about how many people or what the maximum occupancy is going to be, and I'd like to know that. So the parking's the first issue. I want to make sure it doesn't impact us. And then the second issue is, like everybody else, my concern of the flow through of traffic into Manton. I know we're characterizing this as a children's facility more than anything else, but anytime you have beer and alcohol, you're going to have adults there, and especially if it goes till 10 o'clock at night, you're not going to have probably preschoolers and elementary school kids there. You're going to have teenagers and adults, you know, after 6 o'clock. So I have a hunch, a very strong hunch, that people that are drinking are not going to go on Northwest Military because of our police presence. Everybody is, you know, people that are drinking that know the area are probably going to go down Manton to avoid having to drive on Military, where, you know, there's more of a police presence than there is on Manton. And then you get to Lock Hill Selma and you're in the city of San Antonio. You're not in Castle Hills, if I'm correct. So, you know, there are a lot more cops on Northwest Military than there are on Lock Hill Selma. So I know that the people that are drinking are probably going to divert to Lock Hill Selma versus Manton. What I would like to see is just no access except for emergency onto Manton. All the traffic in and out being through Northwest Military. And then I have concerns with, you know, the noise also. my neighbor who lives directly behind the bank isn't here. She's out of town, but I am speaking on her behalf. I mean, she adjoins this property, and, you know, anytime we get liquor and wine, there's a concern that, you know, I'm not saying it's a bar. I know that's not what the intent is, but I don't know what kind of parties and what kind of occupancy they're going to have. So those are my concerns. I'd like to make sure that the parking is sufficient for the occupancy, and I'd like to see the in and out to be through Northwest Military, no access to Manton, except maybe in case of an emergency. And I like the gentleman's idea about the drive-through wrapping around the building and exiting through the other end. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Carter. Next up is George Booth.
Committee, George Booth, 124 Dogwood, been a resident since 1960. The area's changed a bit. Manton, I wouldn't exactly call as a go-through street or commercial street, and I think the residents are maybe exaggerating. If their kids are in the street playing, they really should be playing in their yards, and sure they can ride their bicycle, but it's not a private road, so I have a problem with that issue. I do agree with them that it probably should be a right turn out of the property onto Manton so it doesn't go into the neighborhood. I think that's probably a good idea, and possibly block that off. As far as building a wall, I think that would be a hardship on the business to build. I don't really believe it's going to affect the sound at all. The zoning board and the council approved this as a drive-through. They had quite a few speakers when it was a drive-through, so I don't really see that's a big issue. And if they're putting a new speaker in, I'm sure it can be adjusted where it's a reasonable level, so it's not annoying the neighbors. As far as the trees, I think try to save the trees if at all possible. If they're healthy, they should definitely stay. But otherwise, I think it's great for the neighborhood. It's a viable business, and we definitely need the tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Sanira Rochelle.
Good night, everybody. I live in 112 Minton Lane. I am wife of Don Rochelle, he just spoke. My kids, I think, was one of the first attendants at Munchies. They have one of the best milkshakes, by the way. So anyway, I have a question. Is Manton Lane a residential street or not?
That'll be our debate today.
So it's not set yet that Manton Lane is a residential area?
You know, the debate's going to go in reference to the fact that what we cannot turn back the time that when they created those commercial areas that adjacent off of Military Drive. So you can basically say it is a residential, because obviously it probably has a majority residential properties on it. However, it is adjacent to a very commercial area, and you have businesses that are there. So it's one of those questions like.
Very delicate, right? Very delicate.
And that's exactly what we have to debate today.
Okay. So I would like to plead to be a residential. We have several young kids on the street. We have about, I don't know, probably 15 kids on the street, and they do play outside. They do play on the streets and on the times that it's allowed. Because between maybe 4:30 to 6 o'clock, if you sit on the front yard, you'll be able to see what's happening in Manton Lane, from Northwest Military to Lock Hill and the other way around. It's a lot of traffic, a lot of holes. The street is in terrible condition. I live there, we live there 20 years. Ever see an improvement? Ever, in 20 years, and I pay all the taxes. And this is one of the big issues of mine, why we don't have any improvements in there. But anyway, so with the traffic going back and forth, more traffic, because Munchies is a big seller, is a good place to be, I'm excited to have you guys there on the corner. but it does have to be a closed area for us there. I don't think it's fair to live in a house for 22 years and have a drive-through in my street, since that you can even find arrowheads on our backyard. This was an indigenous area. And with VIA now, with, trucks going by Northwest Military at high speed on peak hour, seen many, many times, in more traffic with munchies, I think is gonna be detrimental for our street and our area. I'm not against them, but something has to be done that it will block our street from all that traffic. And I like the idea when you said to close the exit from Lock Hill Selma, so nobody can go that way. So people from the munchies or snack bites, they can go out through Northwest Military and not go through our residential area. Because I still want to see our kids on the street playing ball, learning their bikes. Where are they going to learn their bikes if it's not on the street? It's little kids. So please consider that if you guys change the drive-through, it will be beneficial for all of us. And I have a question for them, if I may.
Sure.
No? So, yeah, it's a simple
Go ahead.
question. If you live in my street,
We're informal here, go ahead.
if you live on my street, would be here on my place speaking out for no drive-through in Manton Lane or not?
Here's Mr.
Thank
Mintz.
you.
Speak on that.
Sure.
First of all, in respect for your residential area of the street, I believe the owners would be very happy to put a right in and right out at that particular driveway, where everybody coming out of that driveway would have to turn right, just like it was for the bank. Well, with all due respect, this is a commercial zone piece of property. And a commercial zone piece of property allows for commercial development. And when people buy a corner lot, which is called a hard corner, it's to give them accessibility from both streets. When they're on a corner, it gives them accessibility from both streets. Manton isn't a private street. It's a public thoroughfare. And any property owner that's going to want a corner lot is going to want to be able to do whatever they choose to do commercially, as long as it's acceptable from a design standpoint. The drive-through is, we've already addressed the sound of the drive-through. If they want to just look at a menu board and we can't adjust the sound, we would be able to, they can order at the window and they can come out. But the property owners that find this as a nuisance probably weren't conscious of the fact that this is a commercial piece of property. And on a commercial piece of property, they have their rights just like the residential does. And we are willing to make the sacrifice of having the cars. We could even readjust the curbs where it can only be a right in and right out, so nobody will exit toward Lock Hill Selma.
May I finish?
But the people that went to the night depository would have gone out that entrance. Pardon me, this is an existing driveway. The city doesn't really have any particular jurisdiction to close a driveway. We're willing to make that a right in and right out.
I think we understand what both sides are saying. Thank you all. I think we understand your opinion. Thank you.
I want to make one more comment.
Okay.
We in order to maintain streets, the city needs a source of revenue. And there's no better source of revenue than a retail or a restaurant facility, if it were that, for the sales tax that it'll generate. A bank did not generate sales tax, but this will. So it will add, and one other comment real quickly, is we are reducing the amount of impervious cover on the site as far as drainage is concerned, because it was draining through the drive-throughs and now it won't. We have less drainage on that side of the building.
Thank you. Thank you for you speaking, but I wanted to add one thing that you said that will be beneficial for both parts, right? Well, you have a business on a residential street, so we do have to have both parties agree upon that issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Sir?
Good evening, my name is Marina Hanks. I live on 119 North Menton.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Marina Hanks.
Okay.
I live right at that drainage mess, so every time I backed out, my car like bumps into everything. I'm really mad at that gentleman who said that our kids should be inside. I'm the mom of 2 kids who constantly, every single day, they go to my neighbors. In fact, right now they're at the neighbor's house and they walk there. And they're 13 and 7. And I don't want them to be a prisoner inside their house. I want them to be outside riding bikes on my street. It is a very busy street. People cut there through every single day. Every single day. I step like this and look at them because they're going 50 miles an hour on my street. I do like the idea they're proposing, but I do not want extra traffic on my street. I didn't move there to live in a commercial, in the middle of commercial business.
All right, thank you.
Todd Herman, 114 North Manton. My question was really, my understanding is when the bank was originally plotted and they had to come and request for a variance from the city to put those entrances onto North Manton. Is that something that the city has the authority to rescind? Because the occupant and the owner would be a new owner?
That is a question that doesn't apply to our committee, would have been in the zoning committee, and those areas would have addressed it back then. And as you heard, the zoning commission already has approved this, so it would have been a question back then. Can it rescind it? Anything can be rescinded. Require signatures and a petition, I'm sure.
So if we got a petition from all the residents to, I guess, bring that up in front of the Board of Zoning, or would that be
And
something?
the issue you will have, quite honestly, is it's already there. So
Yeah,
therefore,
I
go
know.
back.
Cat's out of the bag.
Agreed.
Okay, that was just my only question, but yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Andy said. I don't think it's a problem to have that type of a business. We obviously want something there and not just a blank hole, because it just doesn't do much in terms of revenue for the city, but I think adding a bunch of noise and traffic is probably not a good fit, so anyway, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Taryn Furman. I live at 110 North Manton, and my neighbors have pretty much covered it all, but Ms. Carter brought up the issue of the occupancy as relates to parking spots. If they do have birthday parties and things like that, at some point, there'll be cars parked along our street. I see that happening for sure, which is definitely a problem. And as everyone has said, cars do speed up and down that road. Castle Hills PD has put out the radar the past few months to help kind of slow that down, but once the radar's gone, people just kind of speed up anyway. If, as a kid's place, if cars are parked along the street, kids will be going to their cars, with their parents and stuff, God forbid somebody gets hit or anything like that. And I'm glad that you had asked if this is a proven concept, because if you guys do allow this, and let's say they do fail, then another business that might have, more experience in this comes in, and then these traffic problems and et cetera get kind of exacerbated. As I'm sitting back there listening to all this, maybe a healthy compromise would be, I don't know where that laser pointer center button. What if, obviously, everyone's concerned about everyone exiting and going down Manton. What if the drive-through, you had to come on Manton, you come up here and drive through, and so it forces you to exit on Military, so that people coming through the drive-through don't even have the option to come down Manton at all. Although, you know, it does kind of suck for this gentleman because his property is right in front of it, but it would alleviate some of the traffic going down the street, you know, to Lock Hill. But that's just an idea, I don't know. So,
All right, thank you
That's all I got.
for your input. Those folks who haven't signed up previously, the sign-up sheet, please make sure you do sign in so Jeanette can keep track of everybody. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Jose Martinez. I live at 113 North Manton Lane. I love the food there, and I like the concept. My concern is with, and I like the revenue stream for the city, absolutely. My concern is until we fix the water drainage problem and no streets, no curbs, my biggest concern is the parking. And we've heard it before, but typically when you have patrons, you know, it's 2 patrons per parking spot. As good of food as they have, they're going to fill it up because they have great food. And there's nowhere to put them. That's the biggest concern. And when we do get the rains, and we will get them, and we have that flood that comes through our street and limited parking, I just think it's an unsafe compromise for our city, not just the children, but I'm talking about anybody in that area. And we can't stop them from speeding down our street right now. The only thing that slows them down is a flooded street. But the parking, or lack of thereof, is my biggest concern. I'm not concerned that the business is going to be successful because they have a wonderful, wonderful food, they have a great product. I know we'll get some revenue from it, I'm happy about that, but the safety and parking for the people that live on the street is my biggest concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay.
My other thing I wanted to add about if it stays open late, we only have one light on our street. So our street is residential, it's very dark. So if anybody drives and not paying attention, and my goodness, anybody on the road, kids, anybody, and get hit, I don't want that to happen. So.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ellen Saichi. I live at 117 North Manton Lane. I've lived in Castle Hills for 25 years in that house we built there. And I agree with everything everybody has said. I'd just like to address it. It sounds like you have great food and we welcome you. But on the other hand, how about a compromise? That drive-through is wrong. It's just wrong. Andy lives right there at the beginning, and the rest of us don't want that traffic down. And I don't understand why you couldn't close that and do exactly what Andy said and have the drive around. I think it's about compromise, and that's what our city needs right now, is some compromise. It's a good idea, but let's compromise and do what's best for the citizens and the safety of our street. And by the way, George, yes, the children are up and down the street all the time. They go by my house all the time. So thank you for consideration, and we hope that what we've said here tonight from everybody on our street, and it is pretty much everybody on our street, that you will take into consideration our safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
I spoke once, and I am coming back. I don't know what our ordinances are about serving alcohol and beer and having the business open past 10 o'clock at night, but if it can stay open past 10 o'clock at night and, you know, it does go through, there's nothing preventing the business from staying open past 10 o'clock at night, especially on weekends, and, you know, our streets are dark. They're not lit. we don't have sidewalks or anything, and I think that we just don't need extra traffic on our street by people who have been drinking late at night. Again, I don't know what the ordinance is as far as being able to have a business open past 10 o'clock at night, but that would be another concern. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. It looks like it's approximately 8:05. Let's close the public hearing, please. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for the
Mr. Chairman,
applicant?
we'd like the applicant to come up forward. If the applicant can come forward, Barry, or... So let's go over some of the issues. Are y'all serving beer and alcohol?
Yes, beer and wine.
Beer and wine.
And it is not a bar. It is a opportunity for parents. There'll only be 7 tables in there, and there's not going to be any kind of a party room or anything like that. And the occupants load really doesn't relate to the parking spaces, because those are all children, and the predominantly children or teenagers in the play area, which is the larger portion of the development. They've said they'll close the business at 10 o'clock.
So it's a hard, fast 10 o'clock.
And then we
Monday,
also...
every single day, so Saturday, Sunday, 10 a.m., 10
Yes.
p.m.
And then we've also...
So just so we make sure, I know the question was whether they're going to stay late past 10. They're not. They're closing at 10 every day.
We've also offered to make that a ride-in and ride-out, meaning that anybody coming out would have to go to the right. We'd do the curbs to accommodate going just to the right. We can't handle the drainage problems for Manton. We can't handle the children playing. It's a public street. The parents need to watch their children from going across the street, because we're not going to be the party that would be responsible, because we would be coming out of our facility out to Northwest Military.
So just to be fair, you all are going to have to apply for a license.
That's right.
And so to the community, the licenses are public hearings also. So you have an opportunity at that point, whether to make the case or not, for that, when that license does come up. So that's a fair question and a fair answer, that you do have it. They're not automatically given. There are hearings that happen when somebody does have an apply for a beer license, beer or wine in the community, period. The other question, in terms of parking, how many parking spaces do you have?
You know, I think it's around, is that right? I think it's 37 spaces. And I wanted to make, can I go back one subject? Probably one of the most successful children and family-oriented businesses in a residential street is Biggs Hamburgers. And they serve beer and wine, and the children play, and other recreational places. So there's nothing that I know of through the TABC that has any impact on that.
And as you know, Barry, it is not, they're case-by-case basis.
Right.
And everybody has different nuances and situations. But I was just informing our neighbors that it is true that when you do apply for a license, there is a public hearing.
Right.
There is a time for neighbors to be able to say yes or no, and but that's not here. That's not within Castle Hills. No, it's all right, cool, we're fine. I mean, just know, my purpose was to tell you that you have an opportunity there, once again, to voice your opinions.
May I make one other comment? Is they plan to discuss the overflow parking at the adjacent property that will close at 5 o'clock. And that business has the front parking lot, and they have a big, large volume of parking behind their building. And if we see any...
You mean Bruce's place?
Well, no, next door. The
Oh,
place,
next door, okay.
I think a musical instrument place.
Okay.
And so they'll be open during regular hours. And I'm sure that they can make, if parking does it is determined that it would be any kind of an issue, we'd be happy to enter into a shared parking agreement with them.
And we assume, Barry, that the parking meets the zoning code, the parking you provided meets the zoning code at this point?
It does.
Okay, and
It's
just what-
hard, this is a kind of a hybrid. There's nothing really in the code that identifies this type of specific use. But I believe that we are right there where a normal one car per 200 square feet would apply. So that's,
And you meet
it doesn't
that?
have anything to do with the number of occupants. It has to do with the use and square footage of the building.
So Barry, if we were to also recommend that there be no public parking on Manton, you all have a problem with that?
Well, I can't answer for them. If we can have an agreement with the adjacent property owner, we can maybe have that
It would force you
as
to
a
create that.
conditional approval.
It would force you to create that if we recommend with this recommendation that there'll be no public parking along Manton Street, then that would be what I'm gonna recommend. But it would force you then to find alternative, and force you to go find somewhere else to park other than in the public street.
Well, I think that it's a good idea to consider the shared parking. And that's what happens in the city of San Antonio. When
Agreed.
some are open for business and some aren't, they share the same parking areas. And I think that would not be an objection to the Manton Lane residents, because it would be on the west side of the building.
We have that also, if you remember, with the sushi place
Sushi
next
Hana,
to
correct.
Sushi Hana, using the
At the vet
vets.
clinic, exactly.
The vet's place after hours for additional parking. So it
Yes.
is acceptable and understood that that is the best way to address without parking on the public streets.
Well, I guess, what would that mean? You'd put no parking on the curbs along
Correct.
Manton?
Correct.
With that,
There are no curbs.
No parking on the edges,
sorry. Listen, I don't really want to open old wounds, because we do have improvements on the commercial property. So I hope I've answered the questions y'all
You
have.
did, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I was just going to comment that the shared parking with the music store appears to be feasible, because the elevations look to be pretty close, and
It
it
is.
wouldn't seem hard to take your back drive and go right into that music group. Okay. Thank you. Gentlemen, questions?
I do have a question. If you lose that exit to Manton Lane, can this project continue?
I don't believe it would. I'm not sure it would. I think their business model really depends on the drive-through lanes, and having done a number of fast food type of operations with drive-throughs, the drive-through will allow for better flow through the site instead of having to park a car in there to go in to get it. They'll be going through the drive-through lane. So you could technically you can count the queuing within the drive-through as parking, because it'd be the equivalent of people having to otherwise park in the parking lot.
What's the impediment to making the around the
For
building
one thing,
route that the
it's too
residents have
narrow to
suggested?
be a two-way, it's too narrow to be a two-way drive. And
Does it need to be a two-way drive?
They want to save a tree. If there's a tree in that pathway, we certainly don't want to go to the expense of taking part of the building down to create a driveway over there. And
Please let Mr. Middleman speak.
pardon me, pardon me.
Gentlemen, please.
Pardon me, but the only tree that was in question was the tree out in front. All the rest of the trees are being preserved. All the rest of the trees are being preserved. We have no intentions of changing anything that wasn't there already. We're trying to salvage as much as we can of the existing property, because they do have an economic model. And I've offered, on behalf of the clients, to take the traffic, and you can do that with curb, the way you build your curves, to do a right in and right out, where cars would have to go out to the right when they come. Pardon me, do you differ? Well.
I've been there when the bank was open, and people still went down Hampton, even though that one in the middle is curved, like you're saying. And at 10 o'clock at night, they will definitely use whichever direction. And you'll get more parking spots as you move the drive-through to the other side. Right now, the way your drive-through is, you could buy.
Okay. Guys, please let Mr. Middleman speak.
You know, that's an existing driveway, and I'm sorry if the residents are opposed to it, but we're not asking for a driveway that isn't already there. And this is a commercial development. The price of land for commercial development requires a lot of detail and a lot of nuances for this to work. The drive-through on the other side of the building, you'd have to make a complete circle around the building. There wouldn't be good graphics to do a drive-through on that side of the building. Here it's visible. That's why they have a corner site. They have visibility for a drive-through, and that is, the drive-through has been moved into a place where the cars can stack in that position. And that's why it was taken out from where the ATM or the night depository was.
I don't think I understood the answer to my question.
About
If you
the park?
leave the drive-through as it is drawn right there, the drive-through window, and you send your traffic around the back of the building and back out the front of the building, what's the impediment to doing that?
Well, I've never studied that. I just would say that you'd have to make that a one-way drive.
Correct.
It couldn't be a two-way drive. So if people wanted to park in that back parking lot, if people wanted to park in that back parking lot, they'd have to come down Manton Lane to do it anyway.
Why would that be?
Because they wouldn't be coming in that way. They'd be coming in the other way. We've designed this as efficiently as we can. We're trying to salvage as much as we can. I'm sorry, yes.
What about a menu board where the old ATM used to be? Gentlemen, it's not a debate. We'll just go ahead, we're listening to the testimony. We heard you guys already. We can't negotiate while you're not going to be able to negotiate for us. We'll take care of that for you.
Is there any other questions?
I'm still trying to
Well,
get through mine.
You know, I can't answer that today. I'd have to actually evaluate it. The kitchen is on this side, so we'd have to completely change the whole design of the building to accommodate.
No, that's not what I'm asking for. What I'm asking for is to leave your kitchen where it is, leave your pickup window where it is, leave your menu board where it is. Take your traffic out that way. Is there an impediment to doing that?
I'll have to look
That's
at,
my
I'll have to
recommendation
look
also.
at the conditions on the ground to see if that works. I will say that if you give it a complete circle around the building, that's not going to prevent people coming in from Manton Road.
Well, it is if you close these two exits.
Well, but they're existing exits. They're
So they can be
existing drives.
closed.
They can be closed, but
Okay.
they're existing drive. It's a commercial site.
Yeah.
And it's highly unusual to close existing driveways. Those are residences that are abutting a commercial property. And it would be an impediment now to the commercial development.
Is there an ordinance that prohibits closing them?
I couldn't say.
Okay.
Couldn't say.
There is, I know there's one thing, I was up there earlier this morning, and there's a big, beautiful oak back there. You know, of what value it is kind of behind the building probably is debatable, but it's a big one. It might be a heritage, I don't know, but it's at least a protected oak. So that's a consideration.
But it is within our purview to make the business
Yes.
function viable to be
Exactly
able
the
to remove
point,
a
Mayor,
tree.
yes.
And in this situation, it seems to meet the neighborhood standards to be able to access exit onto Northwest Military would be.
Well, we'd have to do a study on that. It may be a tree. I don't think it's practical to try and tear down part of the existing building to make it navigable. That's a very definite economic hardship on this property owner.
And I understand there is consideration of
Yeah,
life
I mean,
safety for
you have to
entrances and
have
exits.
fire and police opportunities for come in, and if you close those exit off, you're not gonna have that access, and they're not gonna be able to come straight in. So there is some consideration for that also.
Who could advise us on that?
That would be a fire chief and
Fire department, yeah.
fire department,
Yep.
who I believe already have reviewed these plans and
They
approved
have,
them.
they have. They've approved them.
As is.
Yes, sir. They've been reviewing the occupancy load and they've been working with Mr. Middleman on it.
We've also met with the code examiner. We've met with other city officials. We've taken note of any comments that have been made to us, and we've adjusted them accordingly. We're just really dealing with the confines of our property, not the other property owners down the way of the street.
Yeah, I wonder if it might be feasible in respect to the shared parking idea.
I
If
think it
that
is.
drive that goes out to military on the music side could be shared also.
I think that's a practical request. I definitely do.
Okay.
And we
Okay.
can get an agreement with the adjacent property owner.
Well, but that would be, the only thing with that would be the timing of it. You know, because if they're open till 5 PM, they're not gonna allow you to have traffic coming across their property during that time. But I can definitely see when they're closed, that it has the opportunity, but then how are you gonna control
I
that?
believe that parking lot is overparked, if you look at the front and the back of that property. And we're talking about a pretty good wealth of parking on the back side of that building. And so there might be, on weekdays, the children probably won't be into there till about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock anyway. Anything else?
Any other questions, gentlemen?
No.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to see viability of looping it, like somebody mentioned, Las Palapas has that type of drive-through where it goes around the building. I understand the kitchen is on this side of the property. It doesn't make sense to move it over to the other side without a complete revamp. I definitely don't want to put an undue burden on the business owner, but seeing if it could be possible to exit out back onto North Military through the parking lot to preserve the integrity of the street. I'd like to see that looked at if possible.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I think that, first of all, I appreciate our neighbors being here and the passion that they showed. And one of the issues, many of the issues that were brought forth were innate issues. You're talking drainage, you're talking speeding. The past decisions, even to put that commercial place there in the first place, was something that was probably had to be debated back in the day, And so we, at this juncture, have to do with the cards that we've been played. But I will tell you that I support the concept of giving, perhaps postponing today's decision, and giving the applicant time to go explore another alternative if they're to be able to take it around and then exit through the adjacent property versus coming back. And so, I'm going to move that we postpone the decision today while they explore the opportunities. I'm willing to listen to y'all come back. It could be an economic burden. That's something for you to determine that has to be brought back to us. But I think the voice of the neighbors has to be understood and heard today, and reflective of us, that we'd like to see you come up with an alternative. Otherwise, we're stuck with having to deal with the cards that we're dealt, and obviously a right turn only, no parking on Manton could be the eventuality, but we're not ready to make that call today. So, Mr. Chairman, my recommendation is that we postpone this decision allowing our applicant to be given time to be able to find a solution that could be viable to what the community has requested tonight. I'll need a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So so that motion passes unanimously. So we'll ask you all to do a little bit more homework on that drive-around idea. And perhaps it might be a good thing also to look at the shared parking idea and the possibility of sharing that drive on the music side, so you don't have to destroy that beautiful tree. And that it really is skinny down there on that north side of that property. I don't know that that's an ideal solution, but we'll see. But I think it's reasonable to ask you all to continue to explore it, and we'd be happy to get together in the next couple of weeks or month or whatever period of time you think is reasonable. Yes, ma'am?
It's up to y'all.
Yeah,
And we'll set the meeting for us.
I think, well, it's just, Ryan has
Well, there-
posting
Well,
requirements.
we have our regular, I think the next meeting again, which would be scheduled in April, would be first week in April, but we have posting requirements again.
Yeah.
Correct, 30
Public
days and et
notices,
cetera.
and then the packet
it-
itself, so.
Can you do an approval, a conditional approval, which would be an administrative decision, and if we meet the requests of the
motion's already been made.
shared parking?
It's already been
Okay,
made and seconded.
okay.
I will tell you, for the applicant, as you've heard over and over, we want you to be here. We want to work with you, and we're really happy that you're going to be able to expand your business and do it here in Castle Hills. So we want to be able to do it. We do not want to be anti-business, because we're not. We recognize innately that it is on a commercial property, and that is something that the neighbors have seen forever and understood it also. So it's not that a negative for us to say, no, we do not want you here. What we want to do is just see if there's a room for a compromise, as was said earlier, for us to be able to coexist. It's important. These neighbors, their kids, I see them walking to your shop. I see them walking in and buying what they need to do and then walking back home. That's what we want to foster, that type of relationship. It will happen, and I have faith in the fact that we as a community can compromise and still reach both goals. The goals of you as a business to be successful, and the goals of the neighborhood to have a safe neighborhood.
I would like to make one more comment, and
Sure.
that is that if you were to drive around the building, that does create a traffic hazard for the cars that would be parking in the back as they're driving around each one at a time going around the building. But we will study the options and get back with you. I'm hoping, Mr. Manager, that we can at least give you time to get onto the April agenda, if that's possible.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Again, that'll allow if there's
Yeah.
additional review and public notice, and Mr. Solis, just as part of your question and a resident on occupancy load, so our fire department, our fire chief has been, interim fire chief and captain have been looking over this from that perspective, and there was an occupancy load given for this project of about 98. So anything over 100, based on the 5,000 square feet of the international fire codes, would trigger for them to sprinkle the building from that standpoint. Just want to clarify.
Thank you. I move we adjourn.
Okay. Yes, I think the applicant, yes, sir.
If we truly have to go through the back or create another driveway, which I estimate will cost anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000, we would not even want to go forward with the project. If y'all can't vote on it.
You just misunderstood us. I didn't say that. What we're saying is that explore it, and if it comes back that you cannot do that, then we have to do what I talked about, the right turn only.
It's extreme hardship right now because we're paying interest on everything, and we're having to delay. We also pay property tax. Well, we pay.
Just talk to us.
Guys, please, gentlemen.
I evaluated the cost. I bid over $1 billion. I've done over $350 million worth of work. So I know what I'm doing. We just can't make it feasible if we gotta open anything up in the back.
And all we asked was for you to explore it. You come back with that solution, then we will act accordingly.
We already looked at that. That is a solution.
Well, that's not what you're well, your representative didn't represent that to us. You were here, you should have brought it up when we were
I'm
debating
stating
it.
it right now. There's no way we can open anything else. It's not feasible to move any kitchen. It's not feasible to move anything. We're on a tight budget, and if we can't meet that budget, it's just not feasible for us, and I don't want to delay paying interest, paying taxes for another month.
I wish you had spoken earlier before we took our vote.
It's already paved surfaces. It's just one part.
I know, but there's gonna be an easement there. So on that easement, we're gonna have to get an easement line, we're gonna have to get the property owner, you're probably gonna have to pay the property owner anywhere from 20, 40, whatever he asks, because now we're at his will.
Sure.
So he's not gonna charge us $1. He's gonna want a good amount for him to maintenance his pavement, for us to roll the cars to his pavement. Whatever it is, whatever he thinks is liable, $20,000, $50,000, even $100,000. And this could be a contract every 5 years, 10 years, or maybe every 100 years.
Thoughts? Yes.
My original recommendation was not to go onto the neighbor's property, but to see if we could go through your own property up the side.
We
Right
can't do
through
it.
here.
It's at least $250,000. We can't do it.
For
We
what?
just can't. To move the building,
No, I'm not asking for any movement of the building.
there's an easement there. We can't fit the lane through there. We would have to move the AC. The AC is on that side, up on that top, yeah.
Up here?
The AC sticking out over there. We would have to demo the rooftop on that side and then build the concrete driveway, or whichever way it is. And then we would have to resubmit it through the fire department, see if they could drive the fire truck around there.
Good point.
So it's really, we're at a point where either we want to move forward or we don't want to move forward, because we're gonna spend another $20,000 in the next month.
So we have to
Well,
rescind.
I guess, I suppose what we could do is reconsider.
Mr. Chairman, then I'll rescind my motion so we can have the discussion, which is what this gentleman is now bringing up. For a second.
Yeah. So was yours a motion?
Can I have a second?
Does anybody want to second Juan's motion? Or are we done?
Reopen it.
Are we done?
Can we reopen it?
I don't have a clue.
You've all, as a committee, you made a decision to,
Yeah.
you've moved it forward, and I think someone actually made a motion to adjourn, but I don't know if that was seconded.
But you didn't entertain it.
Is it possible to rescind the motion, Ryan, and redo it? Or once it's done, it's done?
I didn't hear you.
I believe it's done. I mean, I'm not an
Okay.
attorney, but
Yeah.
All righty. Is there, what is the status of the motion to adjourn?
I made the motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.
So the motion stayed where we were. I mean, you spoke too late, brother. We had that opportunity.